Guys, sorry my last video cut off. Trying to turn the light on here. So I think I was talking about oral sex, and I ended up just conversing with a girl on one of the Facebook groups who she just wants to have oral sex, and I'm just like, girl, why do you come in here teaching women that they should put a man's genitalia in their mouth? Like, when you really think about that, that doesn't sound appealing. That's not what God ordained. I'm sorry. It's just not. And you shouldn't, because you want to have pleasure in that, go around teaching people those things. Like, when you're teaching your daughter about sex, are you going to say to your daughter, and baby, it's okay for you to put his penis in your mouth? It's okay. No. What woman, what mother wants to envision her daughter, well, having sex in general, but a man's penis going in her mouth? Let's think about this logically. That's not a good thing for women or men to be doing. We should abstain from oral sex. It originates from Babylon and Egypt and all those places that were sexually and just spiritually corrupt in the first place. So yeah, we just need to stop trying to protect those things of the world because they feel good to us. So the next thing, I think I didn't do these verses maybe. So the verses I have concerning oral sex is 1 Corinthians 6:18. Flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. I might have brought that up, I don't know. Yeah, so basically, when you do anal sex, when you do zoophilia, when you do oral sex, you're committing a sin against your own body. You're defiling your own body. Because it lets certain spirits in, because those types of acts don't belong to the Lord. The Lord has a way that he wants us to have sex, and it sounds weird, but even the act of sex is supposed to honor him, because it's something he made for a husband and wife to not only procreate but to enjoy one another. But unfortunately, some things that we find enjoyable in sex just aren't of him, so they in turn defile us. And the next verse is Hebrews 13:4. Let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and the adulterous. So that kind of speaks for itself. And along with this topic about sex and sexiness especially, has been coming up the topic of preferences. So actually, even before I became a believer, this topic came up several times, because I understood the idea of preferences, but I didn't understand why people took it to such extremities type deal. So my story is, when I was younger, none of the black men wanted to date the black women in my high school. I went to a predominantly white high school. And I would say that probably has something to do with it, just because in the world there is an ideal of beauty, and typically it's I don't want to say typically, because a lot of people like different things, but it's definitely not African American women. We'll just put it that way. So I did notice that the black men were attracted to me, but there was almost this like, well, I have to show you to my friends, so I can't date you type deal. It was really silly. So I became kind of embittered about that, and so I was like, well, you know what, I'm just going to date white men. So I spent a long time dating white men, and the Lord showed me that, it's not even about somebody being white, because those men weren't any particularly better than any man that told me he didn't want to date me because I was black. So at the end of the day, The preferences thing, I don't really think it's the Lord's heart. Excuse me. And I think that's because it's usually built out of vanity and what we know about the world and these like subconscious biases that we have towards other people. Because I've had quite a bit of men say that they just don't like black women, and then I ask them and they're like, well, I just don't like them. And I'm like, but you don't even know me, so how do you know that you don't like me? Well, I saw on the TV so-and-so had a kid, and I'm like, well, I don't have kids. I've never been married. I barely have sex. Well, at that time, I don't have sex at all anymore, but at that time, I'm like, I barely have sex with anyone. You know, there was just all these preconceived ideas about black women that were stopping him from dating any of them. And, you know, here you are trying to put yourself on this pedestal. Well, I don't date black women, but you're putting them down here. Okay, so that's where the preferences thing comes from. It's like you're exalting one type of person or multiple types of people, and you're putting the rest of the people down here. But the Lord isn't looking at what those people look like. The Lord has never said, oh, your eyes are blue, you're going to make it into the kingdom. Oh, your hair is curly, you're going to make it into the kingdom. No, the Lord actually made all these different types of people, and they range from, you know, very skinny to big, and they might be tall, they might be short, they have dark hair, they have light hair, they have brown eyes, they have green eyes, whatever the deal is. The Lord is a master artist. So he made all these different type of people, and that was out of his massive creative abilities. And guess what? As a designer, you don't look at, well, this design is better than this design type deal. Like, no, you have a line of clothing and you see how they all perfectly work together, and you can mix them and mingle them and all that kind of stuff, and you love them all equally. So when you say, oh, well, this is my preference to have a person that looks like this, you're kind of dissing the creativity of God a little bit. You are. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect in this, but I've been praying with the Lord to cleanse my heart and just show me the right way to think about these things, because I don't want to ostracize anyone, especially that could be my future husband. Oh, and then what else was I going to say? Yeah, and it's just hurtful. Like, I spent a lot of years in the Myers-Briggs, and with Myers-Briggs, you can look up these articles, and it talks about what type goes best with what type. So I was looking for my types, which would have been an ENTJ, an ESTJ, an ESFJ, and an ENFJ. And so by those preferences, I could have been scooting aside a lot of people that could have been good for me because I was looking at their Myers-Briggs type. Well, that's the thing with the Myers-Briggs, and also this Enneagram thing that one of the churches in my city is doing. They aim to put people into these boxes. So people say, this is who I am, and none of that is who I am. And the truth is that is a lie, okay? Because honestly, you can find these different personality attributes of other personalities in one personality. I don't know if I made that clear enough, but say you're an ISFP, okay? You might have some personality traits that are similar to an ENTP. So to say that, no, I'm just this ISFP and I'm nothing else, that to me is a trick of the devil. It is trying to encapsulate people into being something, one thing, and rejecting the expansion of who they are, which the Lord says we're all fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, we're all made uniquely. And so what's more important is finding that uniqueness in the Lord, that identity in the Lord, rather than off the internet through Myers-Briggs types and that kind of thing. And that will hopefully open our minds to other people, so we won't be so locked down in preferences and biases and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to speak on that a little bit, just because it is pretty hurtful, and the preferences thing is pretty hurtful. It puts people down here at a level that, they don't deserve or might not deserve, and I do think it's a little bit self-righteous as well. So that's just my opinion on that, and hopefully you guys will pray on it and look into it. And the Lord always seems to respond when I ask him what the truth is, and I hope that he does that for you too. So you guys have a blessed one. Bye.